So we are going to use two computer two microphones again.
Okay.
One for the Zoom,
All right,
so you can. Are you going to be standing here all the time?
no, then I'm gonna sit in between.
Oh,
Because they'll be-
but while you are speaking.
Yes, yes.
So. Oh.
Because they'll be- it's repeating us. Yes.
I'm going to record this. No, it's big, it is echoing us. Yes. Okay, let's. They won't hear you. But I will need that when we are playing the videos. Okay, at that time we'll see how it works. That never happened. It's like you have to record this. Almost.
Let you just tell me how we're.
Okay. You can use this one also. Oh, no, it's just to test what the other guys are seeing. Yeah. So you are going to welcome some audience.
So everybody, we're gonna get started now. We got all the tech ready to go. Is that good?
Yeah, excellent.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our first Greater Lansing United Nations Association event of 2023, SDGs and the UN at work around the world. I'm Lisa Berg, Magluna board member and vice president of programming. We are happy to have a hybrid event that includes some of us here in person at Edgewood United Church in East Lansing, and some of you who are able to join us by Zoom. Before we begin, I need to cover a few housekeeping details. This event will be recorded. It will be uploaded to the Gluna website later this week for those who were unable to attend. So you can point people there if you want someone to see it after the event. For the safety of our speakers and the other attendees, we ask that all the people in the in-person event, please wear masks throughout the event. Our speakers will remove their masks when they are presenting. Also, for those of us in person, a note about the restrooms. There is a restroom, a unisex restroom through this door. And if you go back the way you came by the front entrance, there are male, female, and unisex restrooms there as well, if those are needed. Now, I'd like to explain how today's event will run. We have 5 speakers who are joining us here in the front. all from MSU. Part of the MSU Humphrey Fellows group for this year. We'll have a brief overview of what the Humphrey Fellows program, followed by a brief overview of SDGs. And then I will introduce the first speaker who will present information about the UN and SDGs in their home country. When the first speaker is finished, I'll introduce the second speaker and so on. The speakers will present in alphabetical order of their home country. And we will hold a Q&A session after the final speaker. So please hold your questions until the end. Make notes if you need to about what you want to ask. So first, we have a slide. The next one, and I'm going to invite Bob Barnhart up. He is our current Luna president, and he's going to give an overview of the Humphrey Fellowship Program and introduce you to all of the Humphrey Fellows who are with us today.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. As Lisa mentioned, I am Bob Barnhart, and I am the president of the Greater Lansing United Nations Association. I want to just share a little bit about the Humphrey Fellows Program. It is named after Hubert H. Humphrey, who was the former vice president and senator. The program is part of the Fulbright exchange programs. There's a number of those. And I think this Humphrey Fellows program is really one of the most exciting programs that Michigan State University has. The program brings together each year for a 10-month time mid-career professionals from around the world, primarily from mid-development countries, to come and learn. They have the opportunity to study, work on their professional development, do networking, and last year, 2022, marked the 20th anniversary of this program. So it's been one that's going on for a while. The goal of the Hubert H. Humphrey program, fellowship program, is to foster knowledge, mutual understanding, and serve as a basis for beneficial professional partnerships between citizens of the United States and their counterparts who are here visiting us. Present with us this evening are this year's Hubert H. Humphrey members, and among those are Mayhew Lamore, he is from Ethiopia. Ali Sharwan from Yemen, Anar Pashajanov, who is from Azerbaijan. Florentine Nzizabari. I almost got it, Flora. And we have Garba Hamadou, one of our speakers, who's from Niger. Gertrude Basima of Uganda. Not here this evening. No. And Krishal Prasad from the lovely island of Fiji, or islands. Maria Florencia Casado, from Argentina. Muhammad Abid Azam of Pakistan. Hyun Taek Yoon of South Korea. Konstantina Kalezeva of Bulgaria. And Sundus Asif of Pakistan. So we're just grateful to have them here and the opportunity to get to know them as they've been here this year, and look forward to presentations this evening. I will turn it back over to you, Lisa.
Thank you. Our speakers today will cover content connected to a variety of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, as they relate to work that is being done in their home countries. On the screen, you can see the SDGs, but I'd also like to give a brief introduction to them for those who are not yet familiar with the SDGs. The Sustainable Development Goals came out of the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development in Rio de Janeiro in 2012, and were adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015. The objective was to produce a set of universal goals for the year 2030 that meet the urgent environmental, political, and economic challenges facing our world. The 17 SDGs replaced the Millennium Development Goals, or MDGs, which started a global effort in 2000 to tackle the indignity of poverty. The MDGs established measurable, universally agreed objectives for tackling extreme poverty and hunger, preventing deadly diseases, and expanding primary education to all children, among other development priorities. The SDGs are a commitment to finish what was started with the MDGs and tackle some of the more pressing challenges facing the world today. They are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing, in a global partnership. All 17 goals interconnect, meaning success in one affects success for others. Dealing with the threat of climate change impacts how we manage our fragile natural resources. Achieving gender equality or better health helps eradicate poverty. And fostering peace and inclusive societies will reduce inequalities and help economies prosper. Every year, the UN Secretary General presents an annual SDG progress report based on the Global Indicator Framework and data produced by national statistical systems and information collected at the regional level. More information about the progress that is being made and other details about the SDGs can be found by visiting the website listed on the screen. Nope, it's not that one. It's not on the screen. If you search SDGs and the UN, you'll be able to find it. At GLUNA, we make an effort to focus on the SDGs in our Java cafes and events, and tonight is an excellent example of that effort. And now we're going to move on to our speakers. Our first speaker is Maria Florencia Posadas from Argentina. Fleur is a strategic planning executive coordinator at Santa Fe City Government, where she is charged with designing the strategic plan of the city and government agenda. She has vast experience in international cooperation and foreign trade areas, both in private and public sectors, and has been a fellow of UNESCO, ECLAC, and the Indian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Her Humphrey goals include strengthening her knowledge about public policies for foreign trade promotion, with their consequent impact on local economic development. Her ultimate goal is to design comprehensive and innovative assistance programs for exporters, promote greater participation of women in local economic and political life, and finally, implement accessible credit lines for small and medium enterprises. Welcome, Fleur.
Come this way.
Feel like an actress. Yeah.
Put this in your pocket.
Okay. Okay. Here. Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. And thanks, Luna, for inviting us. And here, because here, no, the same. Perhaps without this? No, it's the same.
Okay, so.
It's the same. The problem is that.
Just give me a second.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, hello. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here, for coming to this event, and thanks, Luna, for inviting us and for the interest in what our countries are doing in terms of these goals. When thinking about how Argentina, my country, is working in this thematic, it seems to me that the time was not going to be enough to enter or go into detail into each goal because they are 17 and they are targets. So I decided to highlight what a national government, in my case Argentina, addresses to commit the goals and the 2030 agenda at an institutional level. Because let's say that every country commits with United Nations in following the goals. So, okay, but what's next? How do countries implement those goals in their regions? Who decided which one of the 17 are the priorities? Who controls that the goals are being achieved? Are we going to report to the international community? Okay, I'm going to tell what my country did and has been doing since that moment. First of all, I would like to tell that Argentina manifested the commitment in September 2015. So immediately that the 2030 agenda was launched, and like continuing with the commitment that Argentina had with the previous goals that are the Millennium Goals. The first thing that my country did was designating the National Council for the Coordination of Social Policies as the coordinating body for the effective implementation of the goal in the country. That council, is in charge of the prioritization, adaptation, and monitoring of the goals in Argentina. It reports directly to the president, and let me say that the good thing is that from the beginning, the framework of action goes beyond or went beyond the partisan logic. So the idea is to have like a state policy, not a government policy. So independent of the political party that is in the power, Argentina has a state policy on sustainable development goals. The second action was the formation of an interinstitutional commission for the implementation and monitoring of the goal. Let's say the goal from now on, because the name is very long. The interesting thing about that commission is that all the national ministries and agencies belongs to that commission, so the work is interinstitutional. This part is very important. That was we started a process of review and adaptation to the national reality of the goals and targets proposed by the United Nations. Because let me say that, as Lisa mentioned, the goals are 17, and among the 17 goals, United Nations proposed 169 international targets. Of course, then each country has to adapt to its reality the targets, that are going to follow and to report to the international community. At the beginning, in 2016, Argentina prioritized 80. But fortunately, in 2020, and in the framework of the COVID situation, my country increased from 80 to 121 targets to be followed and reported, and 251 indicators. That shows the growing interest of Argentina in following and respecting the Sustainable Development Goals. Another activity we do, or action, is the joint work with the different states or provinces governments and local governments, plus the Congress or legislative power. Because it's very important to highlight that despite the political differences between national governments and many state or city governments, all of them supported the national policy of Argentina commitment with the goals. Then we received different trainings of public officials on public management and sustainable development goals. As a third action, we can say that many participation spaces were organized because the 2030 agenda is not only for government, the agenda involves all of us. not only government, but also society, universities, private sector, international organizations. So we organize many dialogue tables or discussion spaces to discuss among all the stakeholders the importance of these goals. Then there was a linkage between the national budget with Argentina's national targets of the goals. So every target has money for doing that target. Audits of the implementation of the goals were done by specific control bodies. Then we launched a website of open access, so every citizen can investigate what the national government is doing in this thematic, can see the reports, can see the data of the indicators, can see any information, because we believe that transparency is a state commitment. And finally, and perhaps the most interesting part, is the Argentinian government has the accountability not only to the country or to Argentinian citizens, but also and mainly to the international community. So 3 times we prepare voluntary reports to the high-level political forum to the United Nations, where we said or reported what have been doing with the goals. As you can see, of course, Argentina follows the chart. Only the titles and the sources are in English, but in the first column, you can see all the goals. ODS is SDGs in Spanish. And despite we are following, and the second one is the interventions or the public policies that corresponds to each goal. So, of course, we are working in all the goals, but there are 4 that are the more important. The first one is number 8, that is work or employment. The second one is number 10, that is the reduce of the inequalities. Number 3 is the goal number 4, that is education. In the 4th place, we have the goal number 2, that is zero hunger. So as you can see, Argentina seeks to promote political policies that looks for inclusion, the social gap reduction, the human rights promotion, and there is the way we are looking for. As a conclusion, I would like to say, so what do the Sustainable Development Goals require in a state to start being implemented? First of all, you need state policies, not government policies. Second, solid and democratic institutions. In the 3rd place, you need long-term intersectoral alliances. And in the 4th place, and of course, the consensus of the entire society. I think that Argentina, fortunately, is on that way. And as Claudia Mojica, that is the United Nations representative in Argentina, said, fortunately, Argentina is a highlighted stakeholder because we follow and commit with the 2030 agenda and the development goals. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Flora.
Our next speaker is Krishal Prasad from Fiji. Krishal is a senior economist at the Westpac Banking Corporation, Fiji. At his current role, he is tasked with providing timely and accurate economic advice to the leadership team, customers, and other stakeholders, requiring in-depth macroeconomic analysis on key economic variables. His Humphrey Fellowship goals include building a professional network in the U.S. that will allow him to address the skills gap in terms of policymaking and public-private partnership. His ultimate goal is to work toward economic growth, building a professional network in the U.S. by a targeted, inclusive, and sustainable growth in terms of climate change mitigation, public-private partnership. His ultimate goal is to work toward goals economic growth, building a professional network in the U.S. by a targeted, inclusive, and sustainable growth in terms of climate change mitigation public projects. Private partnership. His ultimate goal is to work toward goals economic growth, building a professional network in the U.S. by a targeted, inclusive, and sustainable growth in terms
Hi
of
everyone.
climate change mitigation.
So just before we start the formal presentation, I have a video to show you guys. It's a 30-second video, and then we'll start the presentation. No, the other one, yeah. I have audio. Problems of having anyway. Problems of having anyway.
It's impossible to sum up how Fiji makes you feel. The one word comes close. It's impossible to sum up how Fiji. I never leave an opportunity to promote my tourism in Fiji. That's that. So like whenever I go to any event in the US, either I get asked this question a lot, where Fiji is. People usually just confuse it as an expensive bottle of water. But I always try to say that it is not just an expensive bottle of water, but it's actually a country. And we are located in the South Pacific. If you can see the dotted line, that's where Fiji is. And that's how small we are in the grand scheme of things. But we really try to make a global impact. Our closest neighbors are Australia and New Zealand. We were a British colony for 96 years, and we gained our independence in 1970. A small country with the population less than 1 million. And major ethnicities in Fiji are the Ethokes, the native Fijians. We have Indo-Fijians who came to Fiji in 1879. And then we have growing Asian population. We have Japanese, Chinese, and Koreans really choosing Fiji as their home. I'm not sure why. And our capital city is Suva. And just before I start, I'd like to acknowledge Lite, who's here, fellow Fijian, and Humphrey Ferrer from last year. Okay, now getting right into it. So the work of UN in the Pacific and in Fiji. So Fiji is really considered as the hub of the Pacific Island, and the UN work in Fiji, in the Pacific, is controlled or coordinated by 3 offices. The largest one is in Fiji, and then we have one in Micronesia and the one in Samoa. The multi-country office in Fiji looks after UN affairs for Fiji, for Solomon Islands, for Tonga, Tuvalu, and Vanuatu. And we have had United Nations presence in Fiji since 1984, so not that long ago, but it operates through 18 agencies in Fiji, and some of them I've listed there, and most of them I think we talked about the UN Day celebrations, which we were all invited to last year. So I'll just call out a few of them, such as UNESCO, UNICEF, WHO, FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, among others. So they combined handle the affairs of the Pacific and in Fiji. So as I think Flo and everyone else mentioned, there are 17 SDG goals. So for a country like Fiji, which is so far from the rest of the world, it's very important that we custom made these goals in order to suit countries in the Pacific. So what the UN has done in the Pacific is they have combined the 17 goals into 6 milestones. And so that becomes much easier to concentrate on certain milestones, I would say. So the first one is climate change, disaster resilience, and environmental protection. So as you know, the countries in the Pacific Islands are very prone to natural disasters, and we are feeling the full brunt of climate change over the years because these are small island nations surrounded by sea. So that's really affecting all the countries in the Pacific. So it's important to focus in that particular area. Number 2, gender equality. For a long period of time, countries in the Pacific have been very male dominated. So over the past few years, we are trying to really empower our girls and women to take up more leadership roles in the social, economic, and political spheres. So that's a very important aspect again. The third one, sustainable and inclusive economic empowerment. We are really trying hard to diversify industries in Fiji in order to work towards that economic empowerment and sustainability. Just for instance, during the pandemic, the international borders were closed. So basically, the income coming to Fiji was zero. So that's why we are trying to use these goals to look for avenues which industries which are sustainable. And we have equitable basic services, ensuring that all Fijians have access to these basic needs, governance and community engagement. And then we have human rights. That's another important one, where we try to see that the rights that people in the Pacific and in Fiji have is equal to what's the international standard, because those things are usually left behind or not given so much concentration in small countries, but we try to take it very seriously. So how do we bring it all together, all those milestones into SDGs? So in Fiji particularly, what we are doing is that for the first time, we have a 20-year development plan that started in 2017, and it will go to 2036, and it is called Transforming Fiji. So each of the 17 goals and then focusing on the 6 milestones are broken down into this 20-year development plan, and like how we are going to tackle each one of them. Because when the UN does its survey, for example, let's say for zero hunger, when we look at the official results of the UN, it will actually probably show that Fiji is not doing so well on that. But I, and probably Lita would agree with me, in Fiji, I don't really think that there is any hunger, because a lot of people live on a subsistence level, which is not really captured, statistically in the results, which when we track the SDG goals. So through this development plan, we try to implement ways in which we do our SDGs and then track them accordingly. SDGs in action. So these are some of the statistics from UN itself. So in terms of the SDG index rank, Fiji is ranked 52 out of 163 countries who are trying to implement SDG goals across the world. So for a small country, I think ranked 52 in the grand scheme of things shows that we are trying our level best and doing quite well with a SDG score of 72.9. So this score, the closer this is to 100, indicates that the more progress you have made towards the SDG goals. And you can see, I've just plotted that in a graph to see how we have improved in that index since 2000. Yeah, that's as far as the data I had. So it's been a steady progress with few ups and downs, but we are moving towards better days. In terms of the spillover score, Fiji stands at 95.8. So this is, while implementing these SDGs, are we having negative and positive spillovers on other countries? So a higher score here shows that we're having a more positive spillover effects on other countries. And then I wanted to talk about very macro level update on how some of the SDGs are faring in Fiji. So the ones that we have achieved and we try to do well in is the goal number 4 and 13. In terms of quality education, I'm very proud to say here that we have literacy rate of above 99% in Fiji, and one of the countries with highest female literacy in the world as well, which is above male literacy in Fiji. So we're very proud of that fact, and we are doing quite well in that. Climate change, Fiji has been in the forefront of COP23, Blue Oceans Committee, and all sorts of environment-related things. So that has really helped us achieve our SDG number 13. Some of the things that we are, the challenges remain. We can see the light orange ones. Poverty, they still, during the pandemic, the statistics came out, 21% of the people living in Fiji were living below poverty line. For a small country, that's an alarming statistics, but that's because the pandemic had really hit us hard. So now that's going to come out. And some of the challenges, the significant or major challenges remain in, for instance, health, hunger, and energy. So for hunger, like I said, a lot of people in Fiji live in subsistence level, so that's not covered there. Good health, health services are still, it needs to be more resilient. But overall, I'd just like to say my time is up, but we are making good strides toward achieving our SDGs, but there's still a long way to go to be at that international level that we aspire to be in future. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Krish. Our next speaker is Garba Hamadou from Niger. Garba is an administrator at Diori Hamani International Airport in Niamey. His Humphrey Fellowship goals include learning how to cultivate an effective and cohesive team to pursue common objectives and manage employees to help provide constructive feedback to the staff in achieving personal and collective goals for efficient company growth. His ultimate goals are to share his experience about how to facilitate innovation in making colleagues with whom he'll be working feel comfortable to communicate new ideas so as to implement any innovation to its full potential. Welcome, Garba.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to show our group gratitude to everybody being here, starting to say thank you to Gluna. We cannot thank you enough for being our second host institution. And thank you again for the gifts, arrival gift package that was the first gift given to all of us in here. I would like also to thank our host families for being here, for showing the support since we arrived. We feel most than being home in US. A special thanks to family, Mr. John and his wife. Thank you for being my family in here. And also I want to say to our friend, Hantek, happy birthday. I would like also to thank the team of MSU for being supporting to us, and especially all the thanks are for you guys, our fellow friends. Yeah, especially all of you. My word cannot thank everyone here enough. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to present something different from the others because my country is not well known. And I think that is better to make people know the country and just talking about one thing that is very important, which is the education. Niger, this is the flag and the administrative symbol. The agenda is the geographical location, ethnic groups, our common value, and the education. We are located in West Africa, and our land area is about 1,627 square meter. Wow, this is the wrong. I upload another one. Okay, anyway, let's go. We are around 10 ethnic groups, yeah, and our main activity is agriculture, but mainly till now in the mandatory way. The capital city is Niamey. We are 8 region: Niamey, Maradi, Zander, Tawa, Difa, Tilaberi, Dosso, and Agadez. Our official language is French, and we get our independence August 3rd, 1960. Our ethnic groups are Hausa, which is the majority of the population, around it is the majority. After that, we have Zarma, Tuareg, Fulani, Kanuri, Tubu, Arabers that we usually call Arabs, and also we have Gurmanche. There is 2 small ones that are not represented here that are also part of our ethnic groups. This is the Hausa, the way that they are, our looked fit out. After that, we have Zarma Sangrai, the culture, okay. The Tuareg, the Fulani, or Fulbe. These are, the common thing is that Hausa is part of Nigeria. Also, Hausa people that are part of Nigeria. Zarma are part of Mali and Niger. Fulani, they are almost everywhere in Africa, in Senegal, in Nigeria, in Niger, in Cameroon. Kanuri people, Tubu, and Arab, the last one, the Gurmanche also. And our common value. Here, our common value is one thing that we always call the joke cousinship joke. Is a kind of relationship that we have between the 10 ethnic groups. How does it work? It's like, if, for example, I'm a Zarma, I get a house of people. Whatever we read to do to each other, we will never fight. I can tell him whatever I want. I can talk to him the bad way, the good way. But because of this cousinship relation, that is a great heritage that we get from our great grandfather to historical event, we always rest in peace, whatever the case is. The video. And the aim is for keeping peace, social integrity, and fraternity. Are you going to
Le Niger, pays aux potentialités immenses, a longtemps attiré des hommes et des femmes d'horizons divers auxquels il offre les conditions de leur épanouissement. Le Niger, pays aux potentialités immenses, a longtemps attiré des hommes et des femmes d'horizons divers auxquels il offre les conditions de leur épanouissement. Au Niger, on dénombre une dizaine de groupes ethno-linguistiques qui pratiquent le cousinage à plaisanterie. Ce sont des communautés de races parlant la même langue. Il s'agit des Hausa, des Sonrai Zarma, des Kanuri, des Peuls, des Touaregs, des Arabes, des Toubou, des Gourmanché, des Boudouma et des Tassawak. Depuis la nuit des temps, ces groupes ethno-linguistiques ont vécu dans une symbiose parfaite en raison particulièrement de cette pratique traditionnelle. Le Niger, pays. Depuis la nuit des temps, ces groupes ethno-linguistiques ont vécu dans une symbiose parfaite en raison particulièrement de cette pratique traditionnelle.
That is one of the good reasons for us. Now coming to the Sustainable Development Goals, in Niger we have left far behind for many years, and I don't think there is especially ways that I can talk about it all the 17th. We have to go forward for that. We have to work harder, but all of them cannot be reached properly if the education is also not be developed as it should be. This is one of the reasons that I'm just going to talk about the education. In the primary, the preschool is for kids in Niger, it's needs a lot. Till now, there is still have some region in which kids cannot attend school. And only in big cities, and sometimes even in the big cities, the family cannot afford kids to send them to school, even though that the education is free. From preschool to university, the education is free in Niger. But the problem that we still faced is like infrastructure problem, resources, all of that make it very difficult. In terms of, and you can see the rates in percentage. Preschool is around 4%, 24%. Net primary enrollment, like 6 to 12 is still, we are still behind around, we don't even reach 60%. And those who can finish the school, secondary schools, is around 70, less than 20%. And we still have many to do. And the literacy rate is very low. More than half of this population cannot read and write. This, apart from that, regarding the peace, regarding fighting against poverty, we still have many things to do. This is just what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Garba. Our next speaker is Sundus Asif from Pakistan. Sundus is a human resources manager at Cube Healthcare Systems, where she drives the entire human resources aspect of the organization, including both operational and strategic functions. With over 7 years of work experience, she is presently engaged in building high-performance teams and uplifting talent in KPK. During her fellowship year, Sundus would like to hone her skills in strategic management and policy, as well as gain a global perspective on management. She looks forward to learning about and ultimately applying lean models in the IT industry in Pakistan. Welcome, Sundus.
Thank you. Hello and good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I am Sundar Sase, and the country that I'm going to talk about has its own challenges. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it still remains to be my absolute favorite, Pakistan. So, before moving forward, let's set some grounds for further discussion. This is Pakistan, located in the southern part of the continent Asia. We have neighboring countries, Iran, Afghanistan, China, and India, a very interesting region. The total area that Pakistan covers is 881,913 kilometers squared. The total population is 231.4 million, making it the sixth populous country in the world. The percentage of youth in Pakistan is 63%. This is the overview of Pakistan in terms of sustainable development goals. As our colleagues have said, that there's a lot of work that's being done and there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. And Pakistan is one of those countries. We stand at 125 out of 163 countries in the world. The SDG index score is 59.3 and the spillover score is 99.4. If we look at the trends and the dashboard, the red area indicates major challenges in the SDG area, as we know that there are 17 sustainable development goals, and out of these, the red areas indicate the major challenges that remain. The orange area shows that there is either there is some progress or the work is being done, and then the green areas show that we have achieved those sustainable development goals. So there are 17 important SDGs, but I'm going to focus on the 4 of these which I think are important and have an impact in Pakistan. So the first one is gender equality. We're going to dive into some data and see what the progress is against the indicators. So we see that there has been a decrease in violence against women, and which is a very positive development. Then we see that the proportion of seats held by women in national parliament is the same. That means that out of 5 parliamentarians, 1 is a woman. We need some change here and the progress is needed. But a good thing that we've seen is that the proportion of women in managerial position has increased double-fold. So this is a very positive development, and we hope that this will further develop and progress in the future. So the policy initiatives that Pakistan has taken to improve gender equality has been passing a bill into 2022 that significantly strengthens women's rights, or which protects women against harassment in workplace. It is actually the enhancement in an already existing bill that was far weak and was approved in 2010. Having said that, there are a lot of major challenges that remain and we need to work on them. The next one is the SDG 7, that is affordable and clean energy. We see that the proportion of population with access to electricity has increased from 93% to 96%, and the proportion of population with primary reliance on clean fuels have also increased from 35 to 37%. The policy initiatives that are being taken by the government are 21 new energy projects under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor Program. The government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa actually has completed a work on 37 new micro hydroelectric plants in the province. The next one is SDG 8. It is about decent work and economic growth. We see some shaky numbers here, and that's because we see the annual growth rate of real GDP per capita decreasing. And that's because the latest data we have is from the COVID year, that's 2020, so it has decreased. Proportion of informal employment, we see a little bit of decrease there as well. So a little bit of work needs to be done there. And then the hourly earnings have increased. So the policy initiatives that have been taken are 27 new projects. 5 of them have been completed, and these include vocational centers, hospitals, technology labs, and disaster prevention supplies, and that comes under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor Program. The last and the most important one is the climate action, and Pakistan has impressive development on that. We have achieved it as per UN 10 years earlier than the deadline was given. So I think that's something that should be appreciated. So I just wanted to have a look. Wanted you to have a look at the graph. These are the carbon emissions from fossil fuel contribution by Pakistan in the graph above. I don't think the score would be very clear, but let me just take you through it. So the target given by UN is 0. We have to achieve net zero emissions, and the emissions currently recorded by Pakistan is around around 1.02. So that's near the score. And as opposed to other countries, let's just say Saudi Arabia, which is the largest carbon emitter right now, the score is around 25. So we are pretty near to getting net zero. So the policy initiatives that are being taken are the first one, and worth mentioning, is the Billion Tree Tsunami Program. That means that the government actually planted 1 billion trees. That means restoring 350,000 hectares of forest land, restoring the forests. And apart from that, we have Clean Green Pakistan Initiative, Clean Green Pakistan Index, Protected Areas Initiative, Ecosystem Restoration Fund. So that's all about it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sundis. Our final speaker this evening is Han-taek Yuan from the Republic of Korea. Han-taek is an assistant director at Korea Post, where he has spent more than a decade managing international affairs in earlier years and labor force regulation recently. He holds a master's degree in development policy from KDI School. During his Humphrey year, he would like to study post-COVID policies, especially on facilitation of the postal network in the US. His ultimate goal is to be an international expert who will be able to represent his country and to develop international affairs partnerships around the world. Welcome, Han-taek.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, people say the last but not. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as introduction, my name is Han-taek Yoon. I'm from South Korea, and I'm a government employee at Korea Post, and I have a master's degree on development policies. Actually, I brought several issues, historical things. Actually, I brought incidents that happened between the US and South Korea. Not South Korea, actually back then it was Joseon. Actually, Joseon is the name of the Korea before. Actually, still North Korea is using Joseon as their official name. So its official name is Joseon Democratic Republic of Korea. I'm not sure whether there's Korea Democratic going on, but anyway. Yeah, so General Sherman, actually it was the name of the ship from the US, and they asked, open the door of Joseon. We need trade, let's trade. But government officials back then denied the offer because they knew what happened in China, Opium War. So what happened was they didn't follow the rules of the Korean officials. They traveled inside the Korean peninsula again and again, and it happened to shoot cannon to the civilians. So it killed 7 civilians. So civilians and government officials were really upset. So they burned the ship. So what happened after that is US government dispatched the army to Chosun. So outcome was 3 versus 300. 3 Chosun soldiers died, and 3 US soldiers died, and 300 Chosun soldiers died. So the difference was not about having rifle or cannon. Chosun military also had cannons and rifles. But the difference was the range. Okay, so anyway, there was a treaty between the US and Chosun back then. It was a treaty of peace, amity, commerce, and navigation. Back then, King of Chosun believed and trusted US power allies. But what happened was between the US government and Japanese government, they had an agreement saying, in short, I will take Chosun, Korea. I will take Philippines. Let's help each other. Yeah. So this is one of the most historical moment of South Korea and North Korea as well. Actually, there was a war known as Korean War. Actually, this part was the last. During the development of the war, the small part was the part remained. But after the intervention of the UN Army, actually, US Army played a leading role to the UN peacekeeping army back then. Yes, and Army's was concluded on July 27th in 1953, but a peace treaty has never been signed. But there was a mutual defense treaty between South Korea and the US. That's why there are several US Army bases in South Korea still. And one very important thing, or one very interesting thing is that actually there in South Korean territory, there is the biggest US Army installation, and the name of it is Camp Humphreys. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. So this article is from US Department of State, and it says the ROK is a major donor and leader in development efforts, including health security, women's empowerment, and humanitarian assistance. Actually, South Korean economy was devastated after the war, during the war. But South Korea is the only country that once was a donor, but now has become a giver. So the United States provides no development assistance to the ROK, but the ROK, Republic of Korea, was a recipient of US assistance in the years after the Korean War, has become a donor of development aid to other countries. And that this is the amount that South Korea gave to other countries. And South Korea is third in absolute terms as a source of international students. This is the number of students at MSU. China number 1, India the second, but South Korea the third. But when it comes to the number per capita, South Korea is the number 1. And in a way, actually, South Korea is playing a very important role in implementing SDGs. Actually, our last president, President Moon Jae-in, appointed BTS as a special envoy to the UN when it comes to SDGs. So what happened was, actually, usually people do not care about SDGs and UN affairs at all. But on that day, more than 1 million people watched it. The General Assembly meetings. Yeah. So, well, this is this is the report from Jeffrey Sachs. Actually, I'm not sure whether you know of the name Jeffrey Sachs. He's a very well-known professor. He is Detroit born. Anyway, actually, this is the ranking 27, not good or not bad, I'm not sure. Yeah, yeah, but anyway, actually, you can, actually, I will, if you want to check the US ranking, you can visit the website link over there. Yeah, because my background is postal service, I brought this one. Actually, I cannot cover all the things happening in Korea, but I brought important slices of the SDGs. So, and this is the article from the UPU website. UPU stands for Universal Postal Union. UPU is a specialized agency of the UN. Anyway, the postal sector can play a key role in the attainment of the SDGs. How? What this is the what called Google search results. If you put Korea Post electric vehicles, this is the articles you can refer to. Actually, South Korea has about 20,000 mail carriers, and it has a plan to have 10,000 EVs. That means half of the vehicles should be replaced with EVs. Actually, the other day, Lean over there sent me a mail saying, you might be interested in this article because this is about USPS, especially about incumbent Postmaster General. Actually, we need to do something because he's not working hard on, replacing vehicles. Yeah, so this is another slice of postal service in relation with SDGs, and especially it is about SDG 2. Okay, so in Korea, postal ICT services for e-marketplace help local communities distribute their products nationally and abroad. This is the screenshot from platform run by Korea Post. It's like a Amazon. Farmers or people in fishing village can sell their items through this platform called Korea Post e-commerce. And this is especially about SDG 2, especially about promote sustainable agriculture. Yeah, these are the references, and I would kindly ask you to read articles linked on the slides. Actually, I could not explain everything I prepared because of the time limit, but I strongly ask you to read the articles linked on the slide. Thank you.
So before we begin our Q&A, I'd like to thank all of our speakers for sharing their knowledge and experience with us today. The information was insightful and interesting, and we really appreciate your time, both in preparing for tonight and for coming here to present to us. We know that as Humphrey Fellows, you are very busy, so let's give them all a round of applause. I also want to give a special thank you to Hakan, because the tech is never easy in these situations, and he's working very hard at it. So we're going to have a Q&A session, and if you're on the Zoom and you'd like to type a question in the chat, we will watch for those, and then we can also get people in the room. Yes.
First of all, a very good presentation by Flo, Krish, Garba, Sundas, and one day. I have to call you with full name. So the quick question from Sundas. So you mentioned that Pakistan has achieved all the sustainable development goals when it comes to climate change. But on the other hand, Pakistan is one of those countries that are worst affected by the floods and other natural calamities. And in recent floods, 1/3 of Pakistan was underwater. So what do you think? What is the role of developed countries, especially who are industrialized nations, in impacting the climate in developing countries like Pakistan?
Can you hear me? Or should I? Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you for the question. It is a very important, I think, point that I might have missed. That although we are working on climate change, but we are the ones who are, got the brunt of the worst, climate change consequences. I think developed countries can play a very important part. And first of all, cutting down their own, carbon emissions. That's very important because I think not only Pakistan, I think even developed countries like we see Florida just recently, because climate change is here and it is going to affect everyone. So it's very important for the bigger countries, for the leaders, for the global leaders to take action right now. It's good that we're talking about it, but the implementation does not seem to be there as much as it should be. So I think it's very important for them to take action now. Like this is the time.
My question is for my brother Gaba. Gaba, does Niger have a good relationship with France, the former colonizer, and is France in any way helping Niger achieve the SDG goals?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Since the independence, and I think that French is doing quite good, but not properly the way that it should be done. Because when you take our natural resource, which is uranium, the country gets less than 1% of the income yearly. And you see how it is, and even the educational system is not, because this is the base of everything. The educational system do not respond to the requirement of the country. Like that means I don't know where they would like to drive us to go, and there are many things to do anyway. There are many things. I don't think it's playing a crucial role. And most of the time also we hear about insecurity in Niger, and our tide is you cannot, as a Nigerian, you cannot go to fight another Nigerian. As they say, our cousinship relation make us to be one family. And all these are working from outside, just to destabilize the political, economic, and everything. Because they know that if one part of the country is well secure, work will be done properly, economic will be developed, whatever the population wants to do, they have to do. And officially also, there are parts of the country which have huge natural resources. Now, to explore these resources secretly, the game that they are playing is like put the insecurity in this area, make the population move and come in secretly and explore the natural resources. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Here's another question for you, Garba.
Yes.
Is the terrorism in Burkina Faso impacting Niger? Is this an ethnic-driven conflict?
Well, is what I'm saying, it's never been an ethnic conflict, because when you take the way that the African population has been linked by historical events, we are just like one family. We have Gurma people that we call Kurmanche. They are part of Niger and Burkina Faso. And I don't see for any means you are going to fight your own family. That's what I have previously said. These are only, of course, the media have the main role to say whatever they want to say about a country, but the truth is not always said. This insecurity in Sahara have never ever been the issue of African. They are not the base. They are not the one who are doing. Of course, it may be young people that do not have hope, working hard to achieve their goals. And of course, there may have people that want to use them in a good or bad way. The problem is that young people that cannot afford the education that it should be are always used in a different way, as have been in many African countries that history has shown. Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, Ron.
Sort of a question for all of the participants. Do you think that the SDGs actually have been helpful? What has been the major thing that your nations have received from the SDGs? Would you make any suggestions for changing them?
We go right down the line. Yeah.
I think that the SDGs are a plan of action, like a guide for the governments. Of course, sometimes we idealize them. They are very difficult to achieve, but I think that they are useful as a north for government. When you have to do the strategic, I work in strategic planning area, when you have to start thinking, okay, which are the priorities of my government, our government, having the goals as a north and a guide of action is really helpful.
Yeah, so in my opinion, like the creation of SDGs has made it much.
Can you stand up just so we can hear you? Thanks.
I think the development and implementation of SDG goals have made it much easier. Previously coming from MDG, the Millennium Development Goals, it was kind of vague. So then it's now into SDG, which is more detailed. So it has made countries, it has made it much more simpler for countries to follow the guidelines that relate to each of the goals to follow. For Fiji, I would say it has really helped us progress because, like I said, how SDGs have resulted into designing of this whole 30-year development plan, and for each of the goals separately, what's the way forward? So it has really overall helped us move forward, not only in terms of development, but has also helped us move towards achieving the levels of economic growth that we anticipate. So yeah, so on a macro level, it has really helped. Of course, there's so many loopholes, and like I said, a lot of things that down on ground is not really captured while tracking the SDGs. But I think going forward, somewhere or the other, we need to bring them all together, not to only take into account the official data that's available, but you know, the other aspects that's also there.
Thank you. I think anything that it might be world war is a thing that everybody should go through with. And concerning Niger, I think the first thing that is much more needed in our educational system should be contextualized. We should educate. I think that it has to be the way that when we send kids to school, we know where to use them. But most of our educational system is with the way that you go maybe for another studies, by the end, you will never work in this field. And if the goals should be contextualized, even though they are universal, but they should be a kind of contextualization to respond to the needs of any and each particular country. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. I think I'm going to agree with Gava. The goals are universal, the goals are generalized. It's upon the countries to prioritize them as per their needs. And I think one goal that may be very important for a country might not be the priority at that given period of time for another country. So I think there's nothing to change in those goals, but yes, countries should prioritize and work as per the urgency or as per the need. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So, in short, yes, SDGs are meaningful in the sense that it gives a awareness to people, and there are different aspects from government and private sectors. But for example, there are many well-known Korean companies, even in the US, and all these consumption that those companies are reporting the results of SDGs they are engaged with. In that sense, actually it's good for the people, private sector players and government to engage with SDGs. Does it make an answer for you?
Yes.
I have a question to Sundar. Sundar, you mentioned for the SDGs, a great development and success, and you mentioned China, I think twice, cooperation. I mean, did the US like a good role in helping Pakistan achieving the SDGs or the development that it has now?
The corporations,
Yes.
private corporations.
Yeah.
Okay, and are we talking about climate change alone or overall, the SDGs overall? I think SDGs, like if we have to achieve SDGs, it has to be a private-public partnership. It cannot be achieved by the government alone or by the development sector alone. So in Pakistan, if we talk about, let's just say women equality. So yes, corporates, private corporates have a very, very important role to play where they have actually worked on policies which were more inclusive, which were more gender inclusive actually, and they work towards basically women empowerment. And that's why we see a rise in women on managerial positions. So I hope that answers your question.
It answers a different question.
Okay, no, I thought you said that our private corporations working.
I mean, economy, China played, it seems
Okay.
good role. What
Yes.
about the US role?
What about the US role? Actually, it's not, yeah, of course, because we're neighbors, so of course China is playing an important role because China has an economic interest in Pakistan as well, and that China is going to get access to the rest of the world through Pakistan. And that's part of the partnership between Pakistan and China. So yes, and that's why China is working within the economic development framework. Talking about US with Pakistan have different roles. So of course, UN itself and other organizations of UN are actually helping achieve SDGs, but on a very different role, not like CPEC or China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. This is your question.
Can I add a comment of the SDGs in general? From my experience about the SDGs.
Sure.
I think Ronald, he initiated some things. What was your question? I think was what the things that you would like to change, right?
No, I was just wanting to get their impression of whether they felt that the SDGs were really worthwhile. If they, I guess the hidden part was,
yeah,
are the developed countries taking it seriously enough? That would be a follow-up kind of question.
Yes, I think for the developing countries, it's more about. I came from a country which is in the Middle East and closer to the whole of Africa. Low developed country, and I've seen like development and the reaction to the NDG before the SDGs came. The SDGs themselves, they look beautiful. They are just the interest of any humankind on this planet, no matter where they are. But then there is a very important thing about which is the capacity of each country to implement. Sometimes we have an objective. I worked for 7 years on for the eradication of poverty. But imagine that it was in a country that does not have even infrastructure to measure that objective. So they are generally good, but I think there should be a framework or an action plan tailored to each country capacity. Maybe Korea, they have good governance. You mentioned democratic institutions. You mentioned the policies, but there are countries that they don't have even those basics. The ADC to achieve those things, and when you come to compare between them, oh, this country did well, and this country did not. But why it did not do that? What about those people who are living like not in a fully democratic countries, like for example, countries like just North Africa. So it's the matter of the looking also to the capacity with the possibilities. It's good to set objectives and everybody agrees on them. I have seen even myself using the SDGs to destabilize the country. And the opposition, they take that objective and starting to use it as a weapon against the government, which is already fragile. So we should have, in my opinion, SDGs that are context relevant. Okay, middle income countries, this is your SDGs and how to achieve them and what you need to achieve them. But putting all countries, it's like putting all people on a race, but there are a very weak and malnourished person, they cannot catch up with the very strong or tall guy, like for example, American or British or South Korean, but somebody from Somalia or from like Bangladesh, and so just this is the, I think a good point we should consider because in the end, we'll be back to our countries.
Thank you. Well, I have another one on the screen. Thank you to each fellow for sharing their knowledge and insights. Argentina seems to have developed the most integrated approach, far better than the US. Most citizens of the US have no awareness of the SDGs. You all have much to teach us. Thank you. All right, I think we have time for maybe one more question, if anyone has one.
What happened in the World Cup that concluded recently?
Sorry?
What happened in the World Cup that concluded recently?
I'm still celebrating. I was going to put the World Cup in the fence, but no, it was not professional.
Congratulations.
All right, you have one, Lynn? Oh, well, that's a question.
It was related to what you just read on the screen because, oh, thank you. First, thank you all so much. This was so interesting and enriching for all of us. We all greatly appreciate what you've done tonight. But I am impressed because like I listened to you, Flor, and it seems like the people in Argentina know all about the SDGs and home tech. I'm listening. What should we do here in the US to increase the awareness of the SDGs? Maybe have South Korea's rap singing group come. We have ideas, we need to learn. We would appreciate that.
Okay, one of the points that I mentioned is like the joint work between government and society. For me, it's very important to, before implementing not only SDGs, but also any public policy, to create dialogue tables or dialogue rounds and to invite citizens or different stakeholders and tell them what you are thinking from government or what you can suggest, like to educate, to do workshops. For example, the government at different levels are doing trainings or workshops about SDGs at schools, primary school, a university, of course, and high school as well. But also before in the first adaptation process or prioritization, those stakeholders like universities, private sector were invited to work with the commission to discuss which were their priorities as citizens. So for me, like social dialogue, let's call it social dialogue, and also transparency are two values that should be promoted and respected.
Great, let's have, we're gonna do a couple final slides, but I want to have one more round of applause for our speakers. So normally, one of our events at Java Cafe, we will have, can you go to them? Okay, we have an advocacy action, so an action that participants can take in promoting something related to this, to the what we've heard from their speakers. And we didn't have anything specific for this event. So we wanted to let people know that there is a website you can go to at any time to see what the UN is promoting in terms of advocacy action to take. And I don't know if you can click on it. If not, it's all right. But unausa.org/advocacy. And you'll see options there that you can go to at any time. Lynn.
I could add, if you're a member of GLUNA, you are a member of UNAUSA. And that is your website. And that advocacy hub is very,
There it
very
is.
useful.
That's what it looks like. So you can go to it at any time, get information about what the focus is. And now Dave is going to give us a quick update on some results of our own advocacy action, I believe. Dave Wiley from the Global Board.
Thank you, Lisa. First of all, I simply want to thank these 5 cooks for giving us a taste of how the SDGs are being dealt with in their country. And just to comment that, you know, who of us could ask for a better thing than a world organization that has engaged more than 150 countries in doing work such as we have heard being described in these 5 cases tonight. In Northeast Africa, where I worked for a while, it was all put forward, you know, that those who never visit think their mother is the only cook. And I think, you know, that applies very much tonight. And very specifically, I have a couple of suggestions to our panelists tonight. First of all, those of you in Korea who are focusing upon development through the postal system, if you could send us a new postmaster. That would be very good. We have one who does not believe in climate change and has refused to order electric vehicles to replace the gas-driven ones right here in East Lansing, Michigan. So we'd appreciate your help. And in Niger, if you could provide us with some extra expertise about how to bring such diverse interests and peoples together who do not try to invent divisiveness, to enlarge anti-Semitism, to attack critical race theory as a attack on their identity. We could use that help a lot in this country. Any rate, but I basically want to tell you a little good piece of news. You know, for years, we in GLUNA have been depending on each of you individually to respond to the calls for action that we put out every few weeks or so, especially about getting the United Nations funded, about paying off our 1.6 billion arrears for UN peacekeeping, which continues to erode UN peacekeeping's number of missions and the amount of personnel in each mission, and to support UNICEF more actively, which every year immunizes 1/3 of the children of the world, and to deal with the horrible crisis of the now millions of refugees that need help through the UNHCR. And right now, especially with donations to the World Food Program and pushing Senator Debbie Stabenow, the chair of the Agriculture Committee in the Senate, to in her last years in the Senate, to make the World Food Program help with the donations it needs to attack the famine and drought and fires and floods that are creating hunger all across the world, to the extent that the World Food Program director now says we are taking away food because of our empty coffers and empty warehouses from the hungry to feed the starving. So we need to work on all of those. The good news is a couple of organizational changes have been made in Michigan. First of all, we in GLUNA work with the Friends Committee for National Legislation, which has a local chapter here, in which Lynn Bartley and Terry Link and several of us represent Concern for UN in this Quaker group, which has 131 chapters nationally, organizing for the same goals. Most recently in getting Saudi Arabia and the US out of Yemen, and to get the War Powers Act revised. So Stabenow can help us in this. And to honor to reach her, we have the Friends Committee for National Legislation has put together a statewide network in which we are representing the UN interests to lobby coordinately across the nation on these issues of justice and peace. And the other good news is one of our own board members, Terry Ling, who I think is on the list up here of our board members who are watching, has helped put together a Michigan Peace Alliance, in which Gluna is one of the, and this church and the Islamic Center are some of the original founding members of that organization. And with that combination of the Michigan Peace Alliance, we have gotten a statewide coalition to go to this year simultaneously to Senators Peters and Stabenow to call for these kinds of paying off of our debt and for paying off the needs of the rest of the UN system on which we are continually behind. So there's good news. We now have enlarged our network that is lobbying for these goals for the United Nations and for peace and justice in this state and throughout the world. And so therefore, when you get a notice from us, please write a letter. You know you're doing so with statewide networks now that speak with a voice to our senators. I'll be frank with you to say that with Senator Peters, we had no response really, unwillingness to even engage in dialogue about reducing the Defense Department's budget, an issue to deal with the human needs and to deal with climate change remediation, in which the US is behind in its payment. Senator Stabenow at the end of our conversation would ask her, would you agree with us that the largest security risk for the United States of America is not military adversaries, but is climate change? And Debbie Stabenow said, yes, she would agree with us. So we've got our foot in the door. It's time to push on. So join us whenever you hear these calls for action to try to enlarge the space that we have to argue for peace and justice across the world with the United Nations in the lead. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. And our final slide is just a reminder that if you're not already a member of Gluna, you're welcome to join at any time. Gluna.org is our website. Do you have any final words you want to say, Bob?
I think I told you that the Humphrey Fellows program, I think, was one of the greatest programs that MSU has. I think after this evening's program, hopefully you agree with me. Let's hear another hand for the. And I thank all of our Gluna members for your advocacy, as we've talked about. And I do extend again the invitation to those of you who are not Gluna members. Please join us. We are making a difference. This is an amazing world, but we have to work to keep it amazing and wonderful. And we can't do it alone. So do it together, join us, and let's make the UN a powerful agency to make it happen. Thank you. Have a great night.
Before everyone sits down. Thank you so much. All right.